Yes, indeed. We're hot.
Heck yeah.
Do we want to talk about weather now or wait till after the music rolls?
Let's roll some music. Make this thing official.
And yes, once again, welcome to Shiftless, everyone.
We're here.
We are here. It is a fantastic morning at Chateau Day Green.
Beautiful, beautiful. February the 14th. Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day, my love.
Happy Valentine's Day. Hope you got me something expensive.
I don't know about expensive.
But it's shiny.
It's
on
shiny.
The inside.
One's for DJ Caleb when he shows up as well.
Heck
or
yeah.
if you want to give one to your lovely bride.
Fuck her. She didn't even know what the Texas chain ring massacre is. Actually, she does. Thank you.
So yeah, this is light jacket on weather at the moment.
Is.
Very borderline. This could change in half an hour and be jacket off.
I was wearing a short sleeve shirt and I was like, I'm throwing a thin jacket.
Just a touch.
It'll be going away shortly. What a beautiful day. Yeah. We had a good ride last night. I missed the first lap. I don't know if you saw the machine over there. But I've got a drain that's clogged. The beauties of home ownership.
I did see that.
Jacked with it for, I don't know, like 2 hours. And then Hoyt shows up and he's like, you want to take a look? We ended up pulling that cable snake is Carl's. We pulled like half of it out. It's so kinked and jacked up. It was impossible to use.
It's well loved. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So I think he used it too much when it was new. And so we cut like half of it off and still tried to do it. We couldn't get it unclogged. So he's going to come over today and we're going to use better machinery. So,
Understood. So is this a major line or a minor line clog?
Well, it's a 4-inch drain line from the house.
Oh, so it's the real deal.
I think there might be some roots in there.
Ooh.
We're going to run a camera and see what we see.
All the good stuff.
Yeah.
All the good stuff.
The home ownership.
The joys of home ownership. Anyway.
Yeah.
Let's talk bicycles.
Yeah, I like bicycles.
You did a TNBG last night?
Uh-huh. We had a good group.
Tuesday night, Brad Green.
What do we have? Almost 10 people.
Nice.
Last night. Yeah. It's a good ride. Weather was awesome. We went to East Side again. That's kind of our normal.
It sounds like it might be part of the routine.
It's pretty routine-ish. And they were serving boiled shrimp and allegedly boiled crawfish, but they didn't have any. Of course, I wasn't going to pay $15 a pound or whatever.
Right.
But they have this gigantic, I think I mentioned it last week, they have this gigantic screen. And, of course, they had the stars on again last night. Some of the things we were talking about as far as random thoughts. They were playing the Hurricanes. Are you a hockey guy?
Not at the moment. I go in and out from it.
But the Hurricanes are Florida, right?
I thought they were Carolina.
Oh, they may be. I don't know. Forgive my ignorance.
That's all right.
But Caleb was like, how the hell does Florida have 3 hockey teams? And I was like, yeah, there's not even any native ice there. Like, how does hockey become a sport in Florida?
There's a lot of transplanted Canadians in Florida.
They say, get me as far away from this place as possible, and they go to Florida?
I cannot speak on their behalf, but I know when I retire, I will not be retiring to Canada.
Yeah, that's true.
I may visit there, but I'm not retiring there.
That is very true.
It's nothing against our Canadian friends.
But that's where snowbirds live, in Canada, right?
In the summer, yes.
Oh.
Yes. And in the winter, they move to Florida.
Yeah, I know. That whole snowbird thing started with, like, a lot of New Yorkers going to Florida, right? Like, living...
I mean, oversimplification, but yes, same general. There were a lot of Canadians in the mix from the get-go.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. When you live in Florida, you do recognize the differences between Canadian culture and U.S. culture.
Yeah.
It's kind of one of those things. It's like, you usually know within, and not from an accent or saying a boot.
About.
Usually within a minute if somebody's Canadian or not, sort of thing. And it's nothing major. It's nothing drastic. It's almost. No, we're not going to go there. I won't say that. I'll get myself in trouble. I'll get canceled.
Oh, I doubt it.
Anyway, but they do ride bicycles in Canada. I know that for a fact.
Heck yeah. Good gravel, I would imagine.
I would think so, when it's not covered in snow and ice.
Oh, I didn't finish reading that Reddit that Caleb sent.
I glanced at it at the stoplight and almost missed the light. So
You're not supposed to be texting and driving, bro.
well, I wasn't driving. I was stopped at the light, and I wasn't texting. I was just, who is this guy, or is it supposed to be anonymous?
I don't know if it's anonymous.
I mean, Caleb prefaced it with, "I know this guy," so I didn't know if it was somebody that you knew it was as well.
I don't think it has a name attached to it.
Yeah, it's Texas Fly Fishing is the handle or something like that.
Oh, yeah, maybe he does know him.
I've seen that handle somewhere before, but I don't know if it's related to Spinistry stuff or what. Or I've seen that handle some. I didn't dig too deeply into it. It read like old man shouting at clouds rant to me from what I was glancing at. I mean, I'm sure it brings up valid issues related to the Greenbelt.
He's just accusing the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers of incompetence.
Well, yeah,
That's a bold statement, sir.
I mean, if you want to call it incompetence, I think it's bad design that goes back to basically the origins of that spillway, or the origins of 380 turning into a major highway. That's basically the source of the logjam, is my understanding, is the trees can't wash downstream past 380, so it turns into a giant logjam. That's my understanding of the situation.
And then inherently that causes backup and floods and
and it's a major fundamental issue that there is, because I mean they cleaned it up a couple years ago and we're back to it again. And that's what they said why they weren't cleaning it up prior to a couple years ago. It's like, we're going to clean this up, and within a year it's just going to be the same thing again. And that's exactly what happened.
And I heard at one point that they just weren't planning on opening the Greenbelt again. And I heard that as fact at the time.
They were very adamant that it wasn't going to happen.
And then somebody told me, "Oh, it's open," and I was like, "Really?" And I was like, "I heard they weren't opening it," and they acted like I was stupid. And I was like, "No, that's exactly what I heard." But I'm still stupid.
I heard that from what I would consider real sources, not just internet chatter, not just people sitting around a trailhead talking. It was at a transportation group meeting. And they spoke specifically about that topic, and it was their understanding at that time was that whoever was making the call, I'm going to broad label it, the Corps of Engineers, were saying that there's no, they're not going to do it. Now that said, I don't know that the Corps of Engineers ever bows to any pressure per se, but if somebody higher in the political hierarchy than them puts their foot down, they do act from time to time. So
Reddit really is just a place for crazies, though. This guy's crazy.
I'm not gonna say that.
He says, just let me read you just a couple of excerpts.
Well, first off, let's do a slight reframing so people that are going, "What the hell are they talking about?" have some idea what we're talking about.
He's bitching about the log jam that's clogging up 380 or the Greenbelt.
All right, but you're assuming people know what 380 is.
Oh yeah.
B, people know what the Greenbelt is. So DJ Khaled this morning, as I'm driving in here, sent a group text to a Reddit thread, and there's a dirt trail along is it Elm Fork of the Trinity River or?
Hell, I don't know.
Anyway, well, the part of the Trinity River that goes from Lake Ray Roberts to Louisville Lake, eventually.
Elm Fork of the Trinity River, yeah.
There's a really nice gravel, bicycle, and hiking and equestrian trail that runs along the side of that, and we use it on a regular basis. But the south end of it, towards Highway 380, just east of Denton, has a trailhead there, but that end is prone to flooding, and that's the log jam we're talking about. Basically, the highway
flooding.
Yeah. The Highway 380, let's say that acts basically as a dam when the log jam.
Yeah.
That's my understanding of the fundamental issue there. And all right, so this Reddit thread, and what does Mr. Crazy say?
So,
according to Brad, Mr. Crazy.
So he says, anyway, after taking some time off from this crusade and actually moving out of North Texas to try and decompress from this, I thought I could come back home and just let it go, or that maybe something would happen. Nothing happened in 1.5 years, and I just couldn't let it go.
So, okay, and there's a disconnect right there, because there's definitely something that happened in the last 1.5. It was clear up until, what, 6 months ago?
Yeah. And then he says, if we can put a man on the moon, have him walk around gathering rocks, and bring him back home again, I think we can solve this problem in my lifetime, don't you? He said, yeah, I'm older than young, but you get the point. But here's where it gets good. The big picture cause, I would say it's climate change, more extreme droughts and more extreme rain events. But anyways, he goes on to say, one person mentioned a radical solution long ago, and I have come to endorse it is not so radical anymore. Dynamite. With what explosive experts can do with directing blast, we could clear this in weeks, and it would have the most minimal impact. No bulldozers, no barges with cranes, minimal impact. And each log jam would be replaced with a great fishing hole, taking lemons and making lemonade.
Okay. So yeah, I think that's very surface level examination of the issue. I am not hardwired into that issue specifically, but my understanding was that was a major multi-year project to clear the existing logjam.
Yeah.
That the whole time leading up to that, the Corps of Engineers was saying, we don't want to do that because we're going to go through all this expense and trouble. Mm-hmm. And it's just... It's
going to happen again.
Yeah.
I think we just need more beavers.
I can't argue with that logic.
But beavers only eat live trees, don't they? So
Do they?
So once they're already fell, I don't think beavers mess with them.
Oh, well, but they will fell dead trees. But yeah, they don't. They they only mess with upright trees, I believe. Yes. Once it's a log jam.
Yeah, they're kind of out.
They just actually probably make more of a log jam there because that's beaver world there, is they want it flooded.
So am I to understand that the lower half of the greenbelt is currently closed? Because I haven't been keeping up.
That's my understanding.
Yeah.
But I don't know that for certain. I just assume when we've had rain events like we've had for the past few weeks, that it's going to be a muddy mess. So I don't even consider it, quite frankly.
Yeah, that part of the trail is very prone to getting nasty because of all the silt that's been deposited on that trail.
Yeah. My understanding is it is once again closed. I think I saw a post along those lines, but I haven't verified it myself. I do know the last couple times we had tried to ride it or utilize it when it was even when things had been dry, it was still having mud issues in unexpected places at unexpected times. It is what it is. But aside from that, anybody in the North Texas area, that Greenbelt Trail part that isn't closed, we'll call it the north end.
North of 428.
North 420, and actually for a couple miles south of 428.
Yeah.
It's really good riding. It's really safe riding,
Yeah.
except for the armadillos. I have been taken out by an armadillo there.
And it's a great place to take someone that's new to riding that wants to.
It is a fantastic spot for introduction to gravel riding, introduction to mountain biking, even particularly for maybe younger riders.
Yeah.
If you think your child may like mountain biking, don't take them to the west end of North Shore to start with. All right? Maybe see if they can do a couple miles on the Greenbelt and what they think about that, and start ramping it up from there as needed. But it's a fantastic way to build fitness. It's a fantastic way for road riders to get introduced to gravel. It's a fantastic way for kids wanting to take it to that next level from riding their kids' bike in the park next to their home. Maybe do something that looks a little more adventurous, but not quite single track mountain bike riding yet. What you looking at there?
Oh, just reading comments. I need to get off Reddit.
Reddit is full of opinions.
Reddit is where people go to be heard. I was going to look up our email from Tanner.
Tanner, not Tyler.
Tanner, not Tyler. I'm glad that was you, not me.
It was one of those things, as I was saying, it's like something's not right there, but
Something's not right. Great letter, by the way. The font is too small on my computer. I'm getting old, Kevin.
Well, you can adjust those things, you know.
I don't know. I'm dumb.
Are you on Chrome?
No, it's my email app.
Okay, but it's No, it's not Gmail. You're Yahoo, right?
Yeah, this is just Apple Mail, I guess. I don't know. It has all my different emails in it. I don't know. I just boil water for a living.
That brings up. I have a question, not bicycle related, food related. While you're trying to figure out how to read emails, what from a health department perspective, generally speaking, these days. I mean, obviously, every health department is different. What is the do you have any idea what the perception is of sous vide for holding temp and reheating and for either in a food truck or a catering or a mobile environment or anything like that?
I think from the and I don't keep up with all this stuff, but they changed the time temperature danger zone now. I think it used to be 40 to 140 for 4 hours.
Right.
And now it's 145, I believe. But I think they still adhere to those guidelines. Like, if you're going to hold something in sous vide, it has to be above 140, and it may be 145.
Okay.
But
sous vide qualifies as long as the temperature's there. Yeah.
But everything I've read and come to understand that there's really no danger for holding something in that zone.
It basically turns into a pasteurization process.
Yes, and the other thing is, if it's vacuum sealed, there's no introduction of oxygen and everything else.
That part I get. I'm completely comfortable holding in sous vide. I'm looking at it from.
But I think from a health department standpoint, I think their standpoint is probably whatever their time temperature danger.
As long as the temperature is maintained, they're not concerned about the methodology.
No.
Okay.
No. I mean, how could they be? They want it as sealed as possible, and if it's sealed, then that's beautiful as far as they're concerned.
I hear you.
I saw a deal the other day, and I want to run an experiment, but I haven't delved into it much further. But I saw a 60-hour apple, and it was almost black.
Okay.
Maybe it was 60 days. I can't remember.
There's a difference.
There is a difference. I can't remember now. But it was, looked like it was soaked in Guinness almost. And I can only imagine that it just got caramelized, from being sous vide for so long. But,
okay. I'm sorry. I missed that part. So it was in sous vide for
I think it was 60 hours.
60 hours. I can't. 60 days sounds like it's.
This was the number 2 number 2 rated restaurant in the world.
Okay.
And it was part of their multi-course.
Okay, so
deal.
this is a prepared apple.
Yeah.
Specifically. Okay, so let's call it 60 hours of sous vide.
It must have been 60 hours, 60 days.
There's no way it could have been
ridiculous.
60 days. Yeah. That would be a $3,000 apple. But
just the electricity alone.
so basically, what they sous vide'd at 160 degrees for 60 hours, or was it candied or anything like that, or
it looked like it was peeled.
Okay.
I don't see. I just did a search for 60-hour apple, but I don't see anything. No returns here.
Try sous vide apple, just for shits and giggles. I'm just kind of curious. We can edit the hell out of this one.
Yeah.
But while you're doing that research, I wanted to bring up something that popped into my YouTube algorithm last night.
Talk to me.
It was somebody's 4-hour and 43-minute
oddly specific
video of their experience of the Texas Chainring Massacre.
Oh.
And it was listed as a training video. Not my best race, but putting it up anyway, sort of thing. And it's like, who is this? I wonder who. And it's from their start at Valley View, and they're lined up like in the second row as I'm taking off in the truck, and police
It wasn't McAfee.
It was not Sean.
Okay.
It was not Sean. He also has a very interesting point of view video that I'll incorporate into this thought experiment I have brewing at the moment. But so we have like a 2-mile start out of Valley View on paved roads before we hit the first dirt road section. And this particular rider started like second row. Trying to sprint out with the fast folks. And we did a neutral start.
Yeah.
But, basically I set the cruise control at 22 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And the fast group kept up with that.
Your vehicle will do that?
22 is as low as it would go.
Yeah. Mine goes 30 is the lowest it'll go.
Yeah.
So I was just
No, I
sorry.
understand. I was surprised, but 30 used to be the limit, but this one does 22.
Okay.
For whatever reason, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Basically, this rider tried very hard for about 300 yards to keep up with the fast group, and they blew themselves up before they hit the first dirt road section at 2 miles out. But they kept going, and it was a very interesting perspective. And it's like I'm watching this guy, and it's like, man, I heard somebody else talking about this methodology, because he had obviously people that were passing him knew who it was, and he'd have partial conversations while he's catching his breath. Yeah, I blew up. Tried to keep up with the fast guys. It's like, I talked to somebody that had that same approach that I thought was a little bass-ackwards, and well, it was our friend Justin Carey. Remember when we were talking with him and he talked?
Oh, so this was his video.
This was his video. And it's very enlightening. I mean, obviously, all the stuff we talked about with that conversation with him rolls right into this video. And Justin, love you, buddy. I'm not saying you screwed up. I'm not saying it that way. I'm saying the unconventional Justin. It's all on display in this video.
Yeah.
It's real. It's. I'm only 2 hours into it so far.
Yeah.
And it's only 4 hours and 43 minutes. He did not complete the 130-miler in 4 hours and 43 minutes.
You probably edited a little bit out.
No, I think it's continuous, but I don't know. So far, it hasn't been edited any. It is continuous. So what I'm actually going to do is it's a fantastic introduction to gravel events and gravel riding for folks that haven't done it or are considering it. It's like, you need to sit down and watch this for 4 hours.
Yeah.
If you can do that, you're up for riding gravel, because we call them gravel grinders for a reason.
I don't know. I can ride for 4 hours and 43 minutes before I can watch someone else ride
No,
for 4 hours.
I'm talking about
minutes.
somebody that's brand new to it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a reaction video to it while that's going, and all the stuff he comes across. You know, the different. You know, obviously we had weather the night before, so weather is a factor. So we see the different road conditions as different areas are. Some of them are perfect, some of them are sloggy, some of the different types of gravel, the different, what people do when they hit the pavement, when people refuel and things like that. He has an interaction with dogs in the video. Hey, let's talk about that. How much traffic there is or isn't, or dealing with traffic, or how do drivers treat the cyclists? How do cyclists, what kind of things are they doing that may not be the brightest things when interacting with traffic and things like that? I think there's a good tutorial in there as an introduction to gravel for folks that might be interested in that. And again, along the lines of, if you can't invest the time to watch and learn this for 4 hours, you may not have the mindset to go out and do a gravel grinder to begin with, or at least not, 50, 60, 80 miles or more.
Yeah. So back in my distance days, when I would often show up at all of these events, my mentality was always start at the top and trickle down, because in my mind it's easier to fall down the ladder than it is to climb the ladder. Like, keep breaching and reaching people that keep pushing and so it was always my mentality: stay as fast as you can with the fastest group you can, and if you fall off of that, you can grab the next fastest group.
There's a difference of maintaining a tempo at the front end to blowing up in the first 10 minutes.
Yeah.
There is. Now, that said, and I'm not making fun of Justin here by any stretch of the imagination, because he finished the 130 miles.
Yeah.
That's a hell of an accomplishment when you've blown up in the first 15 minutes and still make it 130 miles.
Well, it's a whole different mentality, too, because I think he's, he has won races, so I guess I'm real-time correcting myself. But I was going to say that the difference between like riding 200 miles solo and riding 130 miles with a pack is, when you're solo, you're at your own pace, or whatever pace you determine you need to be at if you're trying to break a 12-hour or FKT or whatever else. But you can warm up, tempo up to that, and then level out. Whereas if you're not trained and used to going out hot, or you didn't warm up properly or whatever, you're going to blow up and you're just going to be cracked, and you're going to be struggling for the next 15, 20 miles to get back on the pace, So, but he'll learn. Or maybe he won't.
Maybe he won't. And that brings up that one of the really interesting parts of the video was, and Justin, kudos to you. That was a very high quality video. You did excellent camera work, keeping the lens clean in the muddy conditions. Actually, he was almost too focused on that, but hey, it worked for the video purposes.
Yeah.
But a couple of key points again from the gravel event tutorial basis for people learning about these events. He missed the turn for the split from the 50 to the 80 milers. So he was doing the traditional, there's a rider in front of me, I'm just going to keep following that rider, and that rider was doing the 50 miler. So he made it another couple hundred yards up the road, and I guess his Garmin beeped at me, figured out he made a mistake. Turned around, joined back in, got with a group, rejoined with a group there for a few miles, and then he got to where the 80 split off from the 130 miler, and he's riding with a pack, and then you can see a pack in the distance in front of him, and he's the only one that takes the split to the left, and everybody else just is following. So he's the only 130 miler in all his whole group of people. So at that point, his ride turned around from a riding with other people pack environment to, I'm flying solo now.
Yeah.
So that was an interesting transition there.
Which is, I mean, it's kind of what it's all about at some point, you know?
Yep. If you do long mileage gravel rides, at some point you're going to be by yourself.
Oh, yeah.
For a very long time.
Mm-hmm. What was his finish time like? Do you recall?
I do not know off the top of my head.
That's fair.
I think it's fair to say he limped in, but I think he knew he wasn't in a winning position that day, and I believe him and Chip basically ended up riding the last part together. Chip was having some sort of tire issues, so I think Tanner finished in. Tanner spoke about the riders he came across with the flat tire or something like that.
Yeah, I was going to say Tanner mentioned something.
Yeah, so Tanner ended up in front of them. So, yeah, I saw Tanner when I went backwards on the course, and then I saw Justin and Chip. And so whatever Tanner finished in, Justin was probably just a few minutes behind that.
Okay.
Which should bring us back to Tanner now. Do you have your email where you can read it yet?
I mean, I can read it. But I want to start with the last part of his email.
Let me just reframe this one real quick for folks maybe that haven't listened to last week's episode for whatever reason. We spoke of a Texas Chainring Massacre rider that had a bike failure last minute, literally at the start line or as we're doing riders meeting, and had to cobble together a fix that we thought was going to ultimately was a single speed, but we'll let Tanner explain that a little bit more. The short answer was, when in doubt, you can almost always craft a single speed setup just to get by.
Pretty much.
You don't usually want to do that at the beginning of a ride.
No, or during.
But, well, I mean, if you're out in the middle of nowhere, it'll get you out of the middle of nowhere sort of thing. But anyway, go. And Tanner, obviously, because we just published this episode yesterday morning, and Tanner sent a very detailed email follow-up yesterday afternoon. Yeah. And Brad's going to touch on that.
Yeah. So, like I said, I want to start with his PS. Just because it was, I enjoyed the body of the letter, but the PS was what really got me good. He said, PS, I don't own an e-bike, in parentheses, I have ridden one, but I don't think they're bad. They shouldn't be at the front of a non-powered bike race or competing against human-powered Strava KOMs. No issues with them as a category on their own race, providing it's safe. And as for a fitness supplement alternative, I think they are kind of cool. If they enable you to get more from your training, do more, go more places, or even group ride with faster riders, I'm 100% for that. If I can keep up with the pro peloton on an e-bike, no, I don't deserve sponsor offers or to win the TDF, Tour de France. But if I can go on a training ride and keep up with the pros, that'd be super fun. You just have to see it for what it is. It is another way. See it for what it is. Another way to play, hang with friends, or train. It's not the same as buying a lighter bike or more efficient drivetrain. It's putting a motor on a bike. That's it. There's my hot take. I think that's pretty concise. Yeah, kind of wrapped everything up with a pretty little bow.
I think he hit all the major points.
Yeah. So let's read his actual letter.
Is there coffee in this thing?
There is. There is. You can have either of those cups. I brought one for Caleb, but
understood.
He shafted us.
He did not. Don't talk like that about Caleb.
So he said, what's happening, Shiftless? Really got a kick from the shout out on the podcast. First off, I think I'm cursed when it comes to TCM. I always struggle. I always have problems. I'm never ready, and I have every intention to keep coming back every year I can. I still 100% love it, and it always makes for great stories. Here's my 2024 TCM story. First off, the last time I rode my gravel bike was, well, first of all, let's just point out that he's taking full ownership of his failure. He said, first off, the last time I rode my gravel bike was a muddy December 16th at the Holiday Ramble. I cleaned the bike, replaced the trash chain, made sure everything was running on the stand, and I parked it in the back bedroom. Since then, I've been 100% indoor on the trainer on my Thai road bike. Humble brag. Fast forward to February 3rd, I made the false assumption that a working bike would remain working if unridden. Here's how I was wrong. 1. The moment I put medium to high pressure on the cranks, the chain would pop off the front ring. Insult to injury, the left front shift lever was completely frozen. Possibly high humidity in my house caused it to develop some rust? I'm not sure. Regardless, the result was 50-tooth chain ring and shifter were completely inoperable. As you mentioned, neutral support took a crack, but no dice. They were able to take Ben's suggestion, disconnect the front derailleur shift cable, and kick my chain down 34-tooth inner ring. So full disclosure, I was not 100% single speed. You weren't even 1% single speed. I had some use of my rear derailleur from the 14 to the 30. For what it's worth, my natural cadence is very happy around 70 RPM. Slower on longer days despite my best efforts to raise it. Either way, at 15 miles per hour, I was totally spun out, so I remained in the 34-14 almost the entire day. As a result, the first 90 minutes was a cadence drill to stay with a group. The next 2 hours, I did my best to hang out with Sean M. McAfee, and the last 70 miles was a solo ride, oscillating between hill repeats and crawling on what should have been some pretty fast, beautiful gravel flats. Right around mile 101, I caught another rider who was moving but had been tortured by flat trouble and I assumed was going to coast in. I was reassured that at least I wouldn't finish last and rolled past only to awaken a demon that I just watched disappear like a shot from a cannon. Dreams crushed. Emotionally, that probably made for a bad time to get to the mud pit, but such is life. After that, I was totally spent, but started seeing faces again. I passed 2 helpers taking down the last water station. I saw you, Kevin. I saw 3 riders roughly 10 miles out and decided to bury myself for the last 7 miles and call it a day. All told, it was an absolutely epic day. Basically nothing went to plan, but it was such a great course. I had a great chat with other riders. The scenery was incredible. I couldn't have been happier. I really wish I could have stuck around for a bit after, but almost immediately after I finished, my body started crashing. I got home just in time to start running a massive fever, which resulted in a positive flu test. Damn it, boy. When it rains, it pours. Huh?
I missed that part. I didn't make it that deep into the email.
So would I try single speed again, or possibly an actual intentional SS setup? I think yes. This is not how I'd do it. I think I'd choose different gears and distances. Maybe I could have survived 80 miles. I probably could have been more competitive at 50 miles on an SS. 130 was just more time, or more than I was capable of in this state. The TCM definitely gave me a lot of time to think about the role gears actually play in efficiency gains, and I've been playing with gear ratios in the last several days on Bike Calculator. I think SS is super cool as a category, and I definitely get the appeal now. That was random. But ultimately, this level of change at that start line is not really ideal. I'll be better prepared at Red River Riot. Thanks again for the podcast and everything bike-related that you do. I'm always keen to chat, listen, learn, race, cruise, or dream about bikes. 2 wheels is better than 0.
Yeehaw.
It's awesome.
Excellent job, Tanner.
Mm-hmm.
Couple points I want to hit on before I forget because shit falls out of my head.
Mm-hmm.
A, because I've already forgotten to do this. I've been meaning to. Big shout out to Bearded Women Racing and their support for that final water table aid station. It was highly utilized. It was like 2 miles after the mud section.
Oh, yeah.
And so Bearded Women Racing, thank y'all for your help and support at the Texas Chainring Massacre.
Were they running neutral there too, like mechanic and stuff?
I'm pretty sure they had some tools and stuff, but they
mud clearing and stuff.
Yeah, they had snacks and water jugs and a tent and a bike rack. We got some extra water jugs to them so folks could rinse off the worst parts of the bike that were still having issues. But they were a fantastic help and assistance and sincerely appreciated. And up to this point, I've dropped the ball on thanking them. I've been kind of staying away from social media on this ministry stuff since then. It's just taking a break.
Yeah.
It's about time to roll back into it. What was the other? Oh, and the other thing I wanted to touch on, Tanner Tyler.
Tanner/Tyler.
If your comfort zone is 70 RPM cadence, you're a single speeder, dude. You're a masher. Find your gear.
Yeah.
You're gonna love it. What were your takeaways from that that dissertation?
I think our boy Tanner is confused. Like single speed is literally single speed.
I think what he's saying is he was mostly 3414 most of the time.
Yeah.
I think he was having issue. He was able to change gears occasionally.
Which is, I guess, 3414 isn't an awful gear if you're going to be single speed on the road. Typically,
it's a little spinny.
Yeah, typically Tanner, just for a starting point or a kickoff point for as far as gearing on the road goes. Typically on the road, you want a 3-to-1 ratio. So, say you're running a 36 tooth chainring, you'd want a 12 out back. That's kind of the rough go of it, and then you can get off of that a little bit, and then
I have never heard that before.
Oh yeah, and then on mountain biking, 2-to-1 is a good starting point.
A true 2-to-1 ratio.
Yeah, but on 29er, it's a little bit less
right.
for a starting point.
Right.
But,
I mean, well, in that debate, the old single speed debate, we had it all dialed in at 2-to-1 on 26-inch was 3216.
Yeah. And then 29ers came along, and it's
what is it? It's somewhere around 3219.
I mean, that's my gear. I mean, I actually run a 3220.
I mean,
but I'm high cadence boy, you know.
Right.
I'm happy at around 100, 110. So
bear with me. No, 3-to-1's not right. That's not right. No, it's not. Well, maybe for road.
Yeah, I mean road and gravel
with no hills. No, because that's a 4214.
Mm-hmm.
No. It's more 4217, 4218 is about right.
Okay, I could be wrong. I've been wrong plenty of times.
I mean, and that's the beauty of it.
How about a 2.5-to-1?
That's probably
I'll settle out of court.
Yes. So, like, let me put it this way: I guarantee you, Cope was not running 4214 when
he's running a 5211.
Did he go to 5211? He might have. He got that old single speed from me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty sure I was 4218. I think he went 4216 is what he ended up doing. And that was a little stiff at times. But it didn't get very spinny except for when he was really going downhill sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm pretty comfortable at 4218, or I used to be when I was in shape. That would get spinny, no doubt about it, but it also allowed me to still climb most of the time. Every once in a while, if you got a super steep pitch in there, or I spun out, I'd have to walk. But usually, I could climb most anything at 4218. But
yeah, this says for flat places, a ratio of 2.6 to 3.0 is ideal for most people.
And again, but I'm not sure. The ratio at we'll have to get into
Gear calculator.
Well, he had the gear calculator. What was his website?
Sheldon Brown.
Sheldon Brown.
Yeah.
What was? It wasn't SheldonBrown.com. What? Anyway, you start getting into those gear calculators. Yes, the ratio is right, but you can't just count gear teeth to figure that ratio in a 29er wheel or a 700C wheel.
It is SheldonBrown.com.
Is it? Man, I thought it went by another name way back in the day, but maybe, probably. Rip.
What a fantastic! If you guys are just want to become a whole nother level of bike nerd, sheldonbrown.com is a great resource for all kinds of, whether it's equipment or gear calculators, how to wire up lights, commuting. I mean, it's all kinds of stuff. It's just an absolute resource.
The best resource on Generation 1 internet for cycling geekness. No ifs, ands, or buts.
It is a very antiquated website. I mean,
but I mean, as far as a source of information in general, there was nothing else like it at the time. And this guy was doing it the hard way, the old school way. And it's still arguably better content than most of the fancy new stuff that's out there. But the user interface is lacking for what people might be used to these days.
Yeah.
But it's excellent content. And anybody that comes from the realm of content is king from what they're looking for, you'll dig it. If you're looking for slick and sexy and one or two buttons away and it thinks for you, it may not be the way to go.
Yeah. It's a incredible resource, like I said. I mean, just on the single speed page alone, it just goes through like every question you could ask, and then you can break down out of that even further. But it's like, why ride a single speed versus fixed gear, just breaks it all down. Is his gear calculator easily accessible there, where you could put in a 29er wheel and a 42 tooth cog and what is 2.7 to 1 or whatever? Let me see. I just wanted to see, because I just got to the part where he's talking about gearing. But he says gearing is a very personal matter, which we all agree.
Sure.
And it is difficult to give good specific recommendations for someone I haven't actually ridden with. The best gearing for you depends on a large number of variables, and he just goes into everything that we kind of already know: your weight, your strength, your endurance, how far you'll be riding in a day, how hard you're willing to push, how much baggage you're carrying. I wonder if that's mental or physical. How much baggage? Probably physical. The steepness
for the
of
first
the terrain.
For the first 3 hours. After 3 hours, then it's the mental baggage really starts to kick in.
Nature of the road or off-road surface. He says there is no magical formula for this. Only experimentation will let you determine what gearing suits your needs. You might find my online gear calculator useful. He said, generally for street use with a freewheel, I would recommend a gain ratio of around 5 to 5.3. For instance, a 42 tooth chain ring with a 16 or 17 tooth sprocket. So you were right there. You'll see other sites recommending a 2-to-1 gearing, which typically gives a gain ratio of about 3.7. That's good if you're going to be riding off-road on steep mountain trails, but a gear that low is maddening on the flats, and particularly on pavement, because your speed will be limited by the tendency to spin out. The same drive ratio may be achieved. Oh, he misspelled achieved. With a larger or smaller chain wheel and rear sprocket, as long as the proportion is the same. You may read about trade-offs and other gearing issues in our article. But anyway, that site is such a great resource.
SheldonBrown.com.
Yeah. He was...
Live it, learn it, love it.
But he also has there's links to a bunch of other sites as well that are single speed specific and great resources, and they talks about fixed gear off road. I mean, all kinds of just crazy nuttiness.
This is a MySpace generation website, or at least it does it still look that way?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
And it's I don't know what you create websites with, but this one was a step above crayons.
So that's basically just HTML in Notepad.
Yeah.
Is the way you would do it back then.
Yeah, this page has been up since July 3rd, 1999.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, what else is going on in the cycling world?
To be honest with you, I don't know.
You were talking about Pond last time.
Yeah. And actually, I think I said Pinarello. It's Cervelo.
But that's started to show up on my radar, a couple of different avenues. But I think it's just the tip of the iceberg for 2024 and 2025 and everything that's gonna evolve out of this.
Yeah, I think we're going to go into a wave of consolidation of some sort, and it very well could be the investment groups like Pawn and, for lack of a better term, I apologize, I don't know the proper name, the Walmart Group. I mean, that might be the direction it all goes, where there's just global entities that are cherry picking key brands to kind of fall under their umbrella. Like, I believe there's another one that's UAE based that is an investment companies, and I think they've picked up a lot of the traditional accessories and Italian brands and things like that. I could be misspeaking there, so I don't want to name any particular brands or anything like that.
Well, Silka is now owned by a guy in the United States. Like, it's no longer an Italian company, from what I understand.
That's basically my understanding is that most of the traditional Italian brands are not Italian owned anymore. They're almost all picked up by various investment groups, and same as with Brooks, and everything else like that.
Brooks is still made in England.
It's made in England, but it's not. It's owned by one of these investment portfolio groups now, and their stuff has been
less than lackluster. Or wait,
it's
how do you say that?
They've introduced efficiencies into their system.
Yeah,
I think is the best way to explain it. So, traditional Brooks is not current Brooks.
Yeah,
and I'm not saying it's. I think Brooks is still generally still an upgrade over to other stuff that's out there, but I don't think it's at the levels it used to be myself.
Yeah.
But maybe it's just not possible for it to be. That's the current state of things.
Well, looking at Facebook Marketplace and just perusing bikes and bike parts and stuff, it's quite the different site from what it was like 2 years ago or so, where everything was like top dollar and bikes were listed for like a day or two. Now you're seeing stuff that is bottom dollar, and it's not it's staying on here for a month,
Right.
So it's definitely slowed down tremendously.
It went ridiculous to one extreme, and now it's going ridiculous to another extreme. But the issue with both ends of that spectrum are
the old ProFlex 856, $300. That's I used to build those bikes back in the day.
Wow.
Yeah.
The problem with both of those extremes is it's real easy to go, well, this is an over the top market. This is a ridiculous market. And you can be fundamentally correct, but you don't know how long that's going to last. And the bottom of the market is the same way. It's like, oh, this is stupid cheap. It's going to go up from here. Well, yeah, it probably will, but you don't know if it's going to go up next week or 10 years down the road, sort of thing. That's the issue. How long is this pain going to last?
Yeah.
And I don't think anyone's even close to answering it. I still say I think we're at bottom or pretty darn close to bottom for actual pricing and so forth, like things like that. But we could be at these bottom levels for the next 2 years. It doesn't mean you have to go out right now and scoop up these deals because they won't be here 6 months from now. Yeah, there might still be deals 6 months from now, or we might be at the very bottom of it. It's hard to say.
And the weird thing to me is it doesn't seem like innovation is stopping or slowing. It seems like if I'm the bike industry, I'm going to go, okay, let's just calm down a little bit. Let's see how things shake out, and let's not bring 30 new products to market this year. Let's not bring another bottom bracket standard.
Yeah, I think there's already a lot of that going on. There's not going to be new bikes for the Tour de France this year, right? Everybody's running last year's bikes.
Oh, that I hadn't heard.
I think I read something like that or heard something like that.
I can't wait for the Tour this year.
But again, I beat it on this drum every episode. Cycling is such a niche market, and the old way of doing things is you have to stand out from the crowd to get this year's sales. Is basically what it boils down to. So if you're not introducing new tech, or if you're not introducing new bling, or if you're not introducing something different where you don't stand out from the crowd, then you're not going to be the prom queen this year.
Yeah.
That everybody's adoring. And if you're not the prom queen, then the reality is most of the industry gets minuscule sales. Somebody's the fad for the year, and they get 3 times the sales of everybody else. But then the next year somebody else is the fad.
Yeah.
That's the cycling of the system, and I think that's what everybody's hardwired into. How do you do business in the bicycle industry?
Well, and it's difficult to nail down what's going to be hot one year and what's hot the next year, and like there was a big craft bike movement there for quite some time, where if you were buying a bike off of shelf, you're kind of a dumbass, and at least in the circles I ran in,
Sure.
And then now it's like, well, Specialized makes a good grab and go bike, or whatever. And I'm just saying Specialized, and you'll see a lot of people just buying complete bikes, but there's still a niche of people that are buying frame and fork and building up bikes, So, in fact, that was one of the interesting things I saw during COVID. Is I went down to visit Shannon in Houston and went to Race Ready Repair down there, and they were having problems getting bikes and components and just like everybody else was.
Sure.
And the owner there, Gary, was smart enough to just buy a ton of frames, and he was just snatching up all the components he could get, and so he was building bikes. Some of them were spec'd by customers, and some of them were just spec builds, so he could have something to put out. He caters to probably a higher end market, but I thought it was pretty ingenious where all these people were, like trying to order a fat bike or something, and they'd be like, "Yeah, you can have it 2 years from now." Mm-hmm. That was kind of the running kind of rhetoric throughout the whole thing. Well, he was producing top dollar bikes because he was procuring all these components and parts and stuff and building bikes and building good bikes, not just hobbing them together,
Right.
But I thought it was a really good pivot on the business model. So I don't know why I brought that up, but it was just cool.
And that, I agree that was definitely the right approach to take at the time, and I'm not saying anything about Gary or Race Ready Repair on this, but it's also one of those things you can be doing that completely right for 2 years.
Yeah.
But then you get caught in the downturn, and now you're sitting on a storage shed full of assorted frames and components that you can't do anything. I'm not saying Gary's in that position. I'm not implying that at all. I'm just saying that's the example of, well, when you're at one end of the spectrum, you can you can make things work in ways that don't work at this end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Now, and that's what people are caught up in, that they had to commit to so much inventory in order to get something on the floor.
Yeah.
And now everybody's...
It's scary times.
It is scary times. And it will be interesting. Hopefully we're kind of to the point where it's bottomed out, where the companies that aren't going to make it, maybe we're already there, where they've been shaken out of the mix, and everybody else has got enough pieces in place to weather the storm and wait for the upturn, so to speak. That said, we're back to the best thing for the bicycle industry is to get more people riding bikes.
Yes, absolutely.
Ultimately, that's what it's all about, and that's definitely my focus for this year. Is, again, going back to wanting to do that reaction video to Justin's Texas Chainring Massacre attempt. It's like, no, that's nothing that 30,000 people are going to have any interest in. But if there's 15, 20 people out there that are interested in riding gravel, moving over to gravel from mountain biking or road biking, or they're thinking about getting a bicycle to do stuff and they've heard about this gravel riding, if that gets 15 more people more comfortable with the process of, oh, I can do that.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't think about that. I need to learn to do that first. I think that's potentially 15 or 20 more bicycles that are sold that may not have been sold, sort of thing. It's kind of the way I'm looking at it.
Yeah, I think anybody that's riding a bike is awesome. That's
agreed.
Yeah, I love seeing like every skill level of rider, as long as they're friendly, But
and that's the beauty of it. That is the vast majority of the riders out there are friendly.
Yeah,
there's assholes and douchebags in the mix. There's no doubt about that.
In every walk of life.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
the nuts and the bolts of it are riding a bicycle is fun.
I just randomly clicked on this listing just because I used to have this same fat bike.
I just see spots on a screen.
Can you see it now? Tell me when it's good.
I see orange.
It's too bright out here, isn't it?
I guess so. What are we looking at?
It's a muckluck.
Okay.
But here's why I thought it was funny. I was clicking through the pictures.
A muckluck is a fat bike.
Yeah. I was clicking through the pictures, and it's all, close-ups of the bike, as you'd expect. And then there's a front wheel, rear wheel, and then it's some guy playing chase with a bull. It's what do they call these guys? A clown?
The rodeo clown?
Rodeo clown. There's like 3 pictures of this guy up against a bull.
Okay.
It's so random.
He's like, just checking if you're paying attention.
Yeah. I'm like, what an interesting listing.
Okay, so what the fat bike.
Mm-hmm.
The fad of the fat bike.
Mm-hmm.
What happened there?
Man, I don't know. I think there was a developing, budding market. And here's the thing. I always struggle with this, and you and I have had conversations about this. It's hard to know, like, the whole chicken-egg situation there. Like, we're as a consumer, were we looking for more fat bike options, and that's why the fat bike market blossomed the way it did? Or were we being coaxed, manipulated into thinking fat bikes were the next thing? Now, I know locally, it almost doesn't make any sense to most people to have a fat bike in this area because traditionally people think of them as snow bikes. But there was a small contingent of us that bought fat bikes during the drought because we were riding shoreline. There was so much shoreline available to ride in Texas when we were going through all the droughts, and we would go and do bike packing trips just along the shoreline of lakes and stuff and circumnavigate lakes just because all the shoreline was untapped, and it was different than gravel. It was different than trail. and it was unexplored stuff.
And you're definitely seeing new stuff, different stuff.
And talk about finding some weird shit, too.
Stuff that's been at the bottom of the lake for 50 years.
But it was another way to get away from traffic. It was another way to just explore. But that being said, I mean, I still think fat bikes, a fat bike is probably my N+1 at this point besides an e-bike. I mean, in front of an e-bike. Mm-hmm. Just because I do miss my fat bike. But I miss it for other reasons, like Greenbelt, for instance.
Right.
You can just turn off of the Greenbelt and just ride any direction. That's the biggest thing about the fat bike is you can just monster truck through everything.
It's the true all-terrain bike.
Yeah.
And I'll give my hot take on it because obviously being a gravel events promoter, I've heard the bitching and moaning about the bicycle industry just contriving the gravel scene, and they're just trying to sell more bikes. In that case, I disagree. I think the market created the bike. The desire I mean, from our first Red River riot, I was saying we need to have drop bar bikes that can take 2-inch tires and disc brakes.
Right.
And that have a Roubaix type geometry to them, not cyclocross.
Right.
I mean, I said that in 2010, 2011, and that's what it's. I mean, it's taken almost 15 years, but that's where we're at.
Yeah, that's where we are.
And I think the market created the gravel bikes.
Mm-hmm. Well, that was an evolution kind of thing.
Well, and that very much so.
Yeah.
And I think that reinforces what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Whereas I think the fat bike fad, I think that was the industry going, here's our N+1 that we're going to really hype and hopefully turn it into. Don't get me wrong. There was a place for it, and the stuff you're touching on reinforces that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that fat bikes were inappropriate.
Well, I mean, QBP, who is the mother company for Salsa and Surly, and those guys were the big players in the off-the-shelf fat bike market. They're based out of Minneapolis.
Yes.
Which is, I mean, that's snow bike territory, prime snow bike territory.
Sure.
So it makes sense that they would be ingrained in that community. So, from a regional standpoint, it makes perfect sense for them to be huge fat bike manufacturers and backers and everything else. Proponents, yeah. So, and I don't know, because they've been doing fat bikes for decades. They didn't just start.
Fat bikes as a snow bike still makes sense.
Yeah.
That if you live up north, it makes sense for you to have a fat bike in your garage.
Or if you're Mike Frazier.
Okay.
Yeah.
The creating the demand in other markets. How can we make sure people in New Mexico want a fat bike? How can we make sure people in Louisiana want a fat bike? And so forth. I think that was a bit contrived.
Mm-hmm. Kind of forced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not to say there aren't people that a fat bike's completely appropriate for somebody that wants to ride across the desert.
Mm-hmm.
Fat bike's completely appropriate for somebody that wants to slog through a swamp. Fat bike's completely appropriate for somebody that wants to ride the shoreline or a beach or something. Mm-hmm. Makes all the sense in the world, but you're back to that's like less than 1% of the cycling population.
It's super niche.
It's super niche. I was always one of those is like, I'm just this far to the wrong side of committing to a fat bike. Mm-hmm. It was like if I could have a timeshare with a fat bike, that would have been my ideal situation. Oh, I get it 2 weeks this month, 2 weeks, 3 months from now.
Right.
I could not commit to a fat bike just to take up space in my garage full time. But there were times like I would really like to have a fat bike for this one ride.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
Fat bikes are one of those things like it's like, how do I explain this? It's not going to make you happy with your Strava times and stuff because you're not going to move fast on a fat bike, but you're still this is one of those scenarios where you're going much slower, but you're working just as hard.
Sure.
But the cool thing that I found about the fat bike, especially when we were exploring shorelines and stuff, is it forces you to slow down, and you're still getting a good workout. You're not covering as much area, but you're taking in more, if that makes sense.
Right,
You're not
right.
just passing everything by and not noticing anything. So it's kind of a good thing. I enjoyed it a lot.
So that brings up a good point, and I think this is probably something that I think the breeze just kicked in.
Yeah.
This is something the cycling industry does struggle with. Or me as a cyclist, I struggle with it. I went round and round for years. It's like, I kind of want a fat bike, but maybe I want a 29 plus, or maybe I want a 27.5 plus, or maybe I just want to go ahead and get a dual suspension that can take a 2.5 inch tire. Or it's like, what is right for what I want to do?
Right.
And it's not practical to buy one of everything. It's almost impossible from a rider's perspective.
Cover all your bases.
Yeah. How do you find out which is the right bike for your needs?
I don't know. I think that's just an evolution thing over time. I mean,
Maybe. Well, but I guess that's what I'm getting at. You don't know until you make the wrong move. Well,
Yeah.
shit, that didn't work. And
Yeah.
that's kind of what I ran into with my 27.5 plus. It's like my second ride on that. It's like, that was a bad move. This does not work for what I want. But all of the math said it should.
Mm-hmm.
All of the marketing speak said it should. All of the input from people that were writing it already said that should do what I want it to do.
find me somebody that's on a bike that paid full price for it that is going to poo-poo it, though.
That's that's the big thing.
Yeah. Nobody admits they made a poor decision in real time.
I'm one of the few that's going to say I screwed the pooch on that decision. That was a bad call.
Yeah.
Not because I was given erroneous information. I mean, I did my homework.
Yeah.
I did my due diligence, and it didn't work out. I'm
Yeah.
not saying anybody steered me the wrong way or that I made a fundamentally wrong call. It just didn't work as expected.
Yeah.
And there's no way to know that until you put your ass on that saddle and
Is 27.5 still like a big thing, or have we kind of settled out that 29 is the real game? Because 26ers died, right? 26 is pretty much dead.
26 is pretty much dead. Mm-hmm. I'm under the impression 27.5 is still a thing in the enduro world, but I'm not positive of that.
Yeah.
I think pretty much everywhere else 29
Is king.
it maintained market share.
Yeah.
We were all saying when 27.5 first came out, it's like, I don't get that.
Yeah.
Now, in my case, the 27.5 plus, that was part of what made sense to it for me.
The plus side, right?
Yeah, the plus aspect, supposedly it's the same outer diameter as a 29-inch wheel.
Yeah.
Or 29er with a 2.2 tire or whatever it was, My big thing on the 29er, when I finally fully committed to that, was the approach angle, the rollover capability of it. It's like, man, this is night and I'm hitting stuff on the west end of the North Shore that on my 26-inch bike will stall me out unless I just charge it, and I can the angle of approach on that tire with the 29er. Oh, okay, it just rolls over it. I expected the same with the 27.5 plus.
Yeah.
What I didn't take into account was actually the tire deflection from the lower pressure. So it actually, with the lower pressures, rolled like a 26-inch wheel over those obstacles.
Yeah.
You would hit a ledge or hit a rock, and you would stall out like a 26.
Yeah.
And that drove me batty after being spoiled by 29er for so long, if that makes any sense whatsoever.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, as I was on a 26 single speed, full rigid Bianchi, I can't remember which one it was.
Puss, sass, cuss, what bliss.
It was a aluminium. I can't remember which one it was. I think it was a Bass. I can't remember. And I tried a 29er and instantly, for me, yes, the tire attributes were awesome as well, but it was the first time that I'd been on a mountain bike where I felt like I was in the cockpit instead of sitting on top of a bike.
I get that.
And at 6'3", that was a very welcoming feeling. So I instantly felt at home on a 29er and pretty much didn't look back. And that's what started when I started riding Niner brand, and went through a bunch of those.
What year was that you converted to 29er?
That would have been probably 03.
That early,
04?
Huh? Okay.
Maybe at the latest 05. I don't know. I mean, when Niner first came out, when the brand Niner first came out, let's see what year they came out. Because when they sold their first run of bikes, I bought a Niner Sur 9 frame and built it up. Niner, let's see if I can figure out what year they came out.
So I was a holdout on 29ers until like 2010-ish, somewhere around there. Maybe prior. Around there. My first experience with 29ers was Truman's Gary Fisher, and it was just the Gary Fishers. So what? The Fisher stuff was like the first 29ers, right? Roughly.
Yeah.
At least mass market-ish. They just did not steer right for what, and I'm at the time, and I can't remember it enough. I would better be able to describe it now, where it comes up short or came up short. At the time, it was just this doesn't feel right, sort of thing. So the geometry was off.
There were some growing pains with the geometry,
and I wasn't dialed into how bikes work enough to understand that at the time. It was like, that's just not for me. And then also, probably from that 2005 to 2010 range, as 29ers were coming on, everybody I knew with a 29er was tacoing their wheels left and right.
That was another growing pain. Yeah.
And it's like, Kevin's not one of those that needs a wheel that's going to fold underneath him.
Yeah. So this says 2008 is when Niner released a Reynolds 853 steel hardtail that was said to be the most versatile bike in its lineup. So this was the Sur 9 1.0 model.
Okay.
So I guess maybe it was that late. I thought it was sooner than that. But
well, I can't remember you specifically when you went that route, but it was realistically 6, 7, and 8 as the 29er momentum was really catching on.
Karate Monkey, the Surly Karate Monkey was already a 29er. And I'm trying to remember, because that was actually my first ride on a 29er was Solo's Karate Monkey, and we were at Tyler State Park. And that was also my first endeavor with Jones bars, like true Jones titanium bars. And I was sold on both of them. But I never had, I have a Karate Monkey now, but I didn't have a Karate Monkey back then. But that was also when Karate Monkeys had that run of chainstays that were breaking back in the day.
Yeah, I remember that now.
But I thought I had a 29er before then, but maybe I'm wrong. But
did you ever go the 1x1 route? Okay.
I'm trying to think. I had. Well, I mean, think about this. I had Niners for. I mean, I guess if it's 08, that seems like such a short, compressed timeline, because in 2012 is when I got my Soulcraft, and it's obviously a 29er, and then I just retired that last year, and that thing was 10 years old at the time, and I know I've said this 100 times, but Tuesday night single speed has been going on so long that my 20-year-old, I left Tuesday night single speed because he was going to be born the next day. And I know at that time I was still on the Bianchi because that was like the beginning days of TNSS. Maybe not even the beginning days. It was probably in the first couple of years. But after that, I think my first foray was Niner. I don't think I had anything before that as a 29er. And I was on Niners until I went to Soulcraft. And then I still had a couple of a Niner kicking around as a friend bike and stuff like that. And then it became Gage's bike when he wanted to ride, and then he decided he didn't want to ride, and I sold it off. And now the Niner is my friend bike or Gage's bike if he wants to ride. So, and then I have the Karate Monkey. I love my Karate Monkey.
Now, I will roll back a little bit on my 27.5 hate.
Mm-hmm.
We converted Jan's 1x1. What converted is that? We threw 27.5 wheels on it,
mm-hmm.
on her 1x1, and that was actually an upgrade to that bike. It did roll a little bit better. It did, and it was on a rigid bike, just a little bit more rollover with a little bit better angles on that front end did help.
Mm-hmm.
No doubt about it. Not as much as a 29er by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah.
But
where I see a 27.5 as a benefit is for a small stature person that a 29er may be too much bike for them.
I think, the 650B and 27.5 are appropriate for small and extra small bikes.
Yeah.
That's where it makes sense, assuming the bike's geometry is adjusted
right. Yeah.
appropriately, not just let's take 3 inches off the top tube, and call it an extra small.
Right. I never saw it from my perspective. I never saw a benefit for 27.5.
Oh, it's all about the acceleration, man.
Well, and I get that, but there's just
really
just a learning curve for and I will relent that it is like, especially if you're on a course where there is a lot of stopping and starting or tight turns where you have to accelerate out, especially from a single speed standpoint, a 29er is harder to get spun up. But we're talking, I think it negates itself because once you get it spun up,
it maintains momentum.
Right. It's kind of a give-take thing.
It's completely,
Yeah. So, but I do get that is a concern for some people, but I think it's more of a mental masturbation exercise at this point.
Just like unlimited engagement on the hubs.
I do love me some good engagement.
I like it.
Yeah.
But it's been proven there's no performance gain to it.
Oh, I would argue that relentlessly.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I'll bring the links next week.
So
I'll bring the receipts.
So here's the one thing I'll say about that. From a geared perspective, I don't know if it makes as big of a difference. Excuse me. But from a single speed standpoint, with the Shimano hub and like just off the shelf kind of wheel sets and stuff, where you have the engagement is like, I don't know, 20 degrees or something. You can, when you get to the top of a hill and you need to reposition your feet, you lose that momentum when you go to ratchet. And
I'm not saying there isn't a benefit to engagement.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember where the line is,
mm-hmm.
but there's a proven line where adding more engagement after, let's call it 5 degrees or
mm-hmm.
whatever. I don't know.
Sure.
After a certain point,
mm-hmm.
there's no benefit. There is no benefit to it, and that was the big thing. More engagement than this, more engagement than that.
Right.
Basically, simplistically,
mm-hmm.
at the I-9 level,
mm-hmm.
original I-9s.
Hydras, not Hydra.
No, the original.
That's the new stuff.
That's the new stuff.
Like the Torch. Well, the torch is kind of the throwback to the original.
Basically,
yeah.
basically, basically that level of engagement, if I remember correctly. And I'm not touting I9. When I9 came out with that level of engagement, that was kind of,
they were the best engagement on the market
at the time, and that was the line. That's where anything that's more engagement than that is overkill at that point.
Yeah.
Is basically what I'm getting at.
I don't know, man. I love my Onyx.
Of course you do.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you shouldn't.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
I just didn't like their axles. I've broken like 3 of their axles. But that's instantaneous engagement, and it's completely silent, which I also love. So
all I'm saying is from an actual performance perspective, measured out.
Sure.
There's no performance benefit to that. Is there a I like this better benefit?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
That makes sense. I do think in single speeding, though, higher engagement is a benefit. But you're right. There's a point of diminishing return. Absolutely. Like, I haven't ridden the Hydra hubs, and they're like 540 points of engagement or something astronomical. But I don't know that I would notice a difference on that either.
I wouldn't turn it down if they were given. I mean, that's for damn sure.
No, I mean, I like the way they sound. I like the way they, on paper, I like them. But like I said, I haven't spent any time with them. But I have spent plenty of time with the Onyx hub. A little bit heavier, but the engagement is insane. Like, when I say it's instantaneous, like you turn the pedal back, and as soon as it goes forward, you're tensioned. So it's pretty wild stuff. But
I could be misspeaking, but here we are, kind of sort of going in circles, even in this episode. I believe the hub engagement, the data set I saw on that was another one of the Dylan Johnson videos from a while back. But I could be misspeaking. It's somebody that delivered the information very similar, in a similar way that Dylan does his. But where I say that kind of goes full circle is when we were talking about Justin's TCM attempt, and you were talking about how you're a fan of going out hot and working back as falling into what your group is. Dylan put together a series taking the opposite approach for his training and his strategy for the Lifetime series this past year, where basically he figured out what his constant ideal power output should be, knowing good and damn well that the first third of the race, the leaders were going to just go off in the distance, and he wouldn't see them for hours. But by maintaining his discipline and doing his prescribed plan, he actually ended up every race catching, except for the podium, cream of the crop type people. He caught everybody that left him in their dust in the first hour.
I would imagine if you're an elite level athlete that could be a good tactic to take. But I mean, I don't know. That was always my mentality. Just start as fast as I could, and eventually I'll backslide into a group that I'm comfortable with.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. And that is the way most people do approach it.
Yeah.
I think Dylan's coming. I have a very similar to mindset as Dylan on this sort of thing. It makes more sense for people like us to define what as opposed to the race telling us what to do, it's for us to tell us how to race ourselves, sort of thing, and stay within that box. But you have to properly define the box. That's the important step to it. You have to know that me maintaining an average of 250 watts is ideal for me, not just guessing. I think 250 would be right. Let's try that. You got to know that that's the right pace for you. And we spoke about that with Justin.
Yeah.
Justin, I love you, buddy, but you could benefit from proper pacing. You really could. You really could. And I'm not saying take the Dylan approach, but there's some benefit there.
But you live and you learn, you know.
And it's who am I to say? Justin's gone a lot farther, a lot faster than I ever have.
He's very impressive. I enjoyed not only did I enjoy talking to him, I enjoyed listening to the podcast because I was able to digest it again. But interesting cat.
No, fascinating, interesting. Justin, definitely keep doing what you're doing. I am not trying to tell you to change up what you do, and that's the hard part for me. It's like I'm watching that video, and it's like, if he just did this, just this one little tweak, you know. But who am I to say? Who am I to say? Because, like I said, the way he blew himself up in the first 10 minutes.
Yeah, I want to watch.
Most riders wouldn't. They definitely would not have taken that hard left turn to keep doing the 130 milers. They would. Most riders would have just. I'll go with this 80 group and call it a day. That's what most folks would have done. But most folks aren't the ones that.
But going back to his podcast, he said, and I'm not gonna. It's not gonna be a direct quote, but he said that he always goes out with the intention of winning, something along those lines. But then in the event that it just turns into not a great day for him, then he just chalks it up to a training ride.
Yes.
So that's why he's going to stick the 130 out.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. He's definitely got the ideal mindset.
Yeah.
And the front end approach to it. But even during that, when we talked with him, I mean, he made it clear that what we were asking, how do you pace yourself? And he just kind of looked at us like, what do you mean?
Yeah. I said, what metrics are you running? What? You're so pretty.
Actually, I think that's when I figured out it was Justin. Somebody was going by him. Oh, yeah, I recognized the shoes, so I knew it was you. It's like, oh, that's Justin. That's who that is.
What a beautiful day.
It is.
Gorgeous day.
You think we have enough in the can for this one?
I think so. Go ride your bike, people.
Go ride your bike.
27.5, 29er, fat bike, no engagement.
E-bike.
Instant engagement, e-bike, cargo bike. It doesn't matter.
You do you.
Ride your bike. Just get outside today.